Welcome back to the Pickup Line. I'm Ethan. Alongside me is Hannah, a show where we talk about sex, dating, and relationships.
And I'm
Hannah,
naked.
how's it going? What?
And
Oh my
I'm
God, you look naked.
I'm not naked.
Oh, okay.
I realized right as we were starting, I look super naked right now.
You did. You were like hunched down just enough.
Hey guys, this is the Pickup Line where we strip down and bare our souls.
So,
it's gonna be
how's
great.
it going?
Today we're gonna talk. It's good. We're gonna talk about. There's no one here, by the way.
Yeah, I'm wondering what's going on next to you.
Dating and divorce and all that good stuff. Is there anything you want to add real quick to why we're talking about
surprisingly,
this?
I think I'll have a decent amount to contribute to this conversation. Particularly, well, I'll reveal why I can contribute to this conversation later because something's happening on Monday. But
Something's happening
you
on
know,
Monday.
I have a show. I had another show with Jenna Belk. We haven't been doing it for a while. Where we talk about mental health, and I haven't been able to do that for a while. So, if I may, I just want to preface this that I have actually been struggling a little bit lately. Like, I'm noticing that I am not as stable as I'd like to be. Like, I'll be really happy and then I'll be really down. And I got an appointment with a psychiatrist.
That's good. Yeah.
So hopefully, I can find something that works for me better because what's going on now isn't working. And I definitely need to get more stable and not go through so many downs because it's not enjoyable.
I've been there. I get that. Where you're like, things are good, but I get really sad a lot.
Right. And and it could be like the stupidest thing that triggers it, like something really small. And then you're just like, and you're just totally down.
It's in a funk, man.
Yeah, I am in a funk and I need to get out of this funk. And hopefully, usually the Pickup Line helps with that because I have fun doing this with you.
Yeah, I have a blast. Thursdays are always like, I always come away from it feeling like, I can't wait to do that again. Yeah.
Well,
so, hey, if you guys want to call in and be sad with us and tell your divorce stories or what it was like after the fact, how you put yourself back out there, what that was like for you, there's a number on the screen, 951-364-2430. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be like, anyway. You're like, I'm depressed. I'm like, all right, anyway.
Let's move on. Let's not talk about that.
Not at all. Not at all. We're all here for you, Ethan, and we love you very much. And I hope you get out of your funk.
Me too.
I brought another divorce expert here with us.
A divorce expert.
He's not a divorce expert at all.
Who is that divorce? Well, you know what? He is an expert on a great many things, although he'll probably deny that. But it wouldn't surprise me if he was an expert in this area too. Let's welcome Hannah's partner, Thomas Westbrook.
Yay! Here he is. He wasn't there the whole time. Oh. Okay, so he's not an expert in divorce.
I certainly hope I'm not a divorce expert. I hope I never reach a point in my life where I'm a divorce expert. I've done it once, though.
He says the first marriage is what'd you say?
The first one's practice anyway.
And I said, that's great.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but I said, that's great. So you can be my practice. So when I divorce you, it'll all be fine.
Well,
harsh.
Maybe we'll be one of those couples that like gets divorced and then gets back together later because we realize what we were missing.
That'll be an adventure.
I always think it's weird
when
a couple gets divorced and then gets married a second time. Like
to someone else or back together?
No, back together.
Okay, I don't think I know anyone who's done that, but if they have, all the best to them. I hope it works.
That's true.
The next time around. Yeah, sorry, you get the seat where the microphone is covering you.
Oh, I'm trying
to. For those that don't know, I would say I'm in the middle of a divorce expert because Monday, my divorce will be final.
Hey-o! Congratulations!
Wow. Congratulations!
I know.
On joining the divorce club. I'm not in it yet. But if you're in the divorce club, sound off in the comments.
Divorce club for men.
Hashtag
You know, the sad part about it though is I wasn't actually in love. I loved her, but throughout the entire thing, I was never in love.
Really?
Like, at no point in your marriage, you're saying?
No, at no point in the entire relationship was I ever in love. And reflecting, like we've both talked about it, it was just a stupid decision on both of our parts, and we didn't know any better. We were like best friends, and we should have just stayed friends because that's what we were really good at. You know, we're friends again, and that's where we operate fine. But as a couple, no. But it just kind of was like I was also not in the best place. So I was kind of just going along with the flow of things. And next thing I know, I'm married.
If you don't mind me asking, like, I mean this in the nicest way possible, but why did you get married?
So this was after my brother died and after like my medical shit started happening. I was just going with the flow. She really, really wanted it. And I was like, okay. I
Just kind of doing what was expected and what came next.
exactly like this is the next step. And I oh my God, like reflecting on the relationship. The writing was not just on the wall, it was on every wall, on the ceilings, our friends, everybody knew it but
Really?
us.
Really?
Yes. My best friend before I got married sat me down and was like, you know, this shouldn't be happening at all. And I don't support
that isn't a red flag. Gosh,
See, I wish that I had friends that would do that to me, but my ex basically isolated me beforehand to the point where everyone who had red flags were kind of cut out of my life.
Yeah, because you had people tell you.
I had people that were concerned because we were kind of rushing into it too quickly. Okay. And, you know, it was one of those things where they didn't want to hurt and offend, and they didn't want to, you know, lose their connection with me by saying something. But at the same time, you know, there were people who I could tell were concerned, and because they were concerned, then my ex got very defensive about it and kind of pushed them out of my life as much as she could.
Yikes.
Which in and of itself is a really big warning sign. But I was young and naive.
Yeah, it happens. You can like scoot over and sit up straight. I made room for you. You have all that room.
Yeah.
This is like us when we're going to bed. I'm like, scoot over. You have all this room.
How young were you?
This was 2015. So I would have been like 25.
Ooh, 2014 for me.
Ah.
Damn. I've never been married.
Good. You know what?
I guess so we got engaged in 2015, but it was early 2016 that the wedding happened.
And how long were you together before you proposed, Thomas?
Honestly, it was an embarrassingly short amount of time.
Okay, how
3
short?
days. Just kidding.
Not 3 days, but very much less than a year.
Wow, that is quick.
Yeah.
I'm surprised when people get married after like 2 years of engagement. I'm like, wow, that's so fast. You guys don't even know each other. But like then they're together forever and they're super in love and they're great. I'm like, I want to be engaged for like 10 years.
Yeah, I think that there were a number of factors that played into it. One was that growing up, I didn't have any experience dating because I was very isolated from relationships by my parents. And there was this notion that you have no business dating. You should just go straight from, you know, courting once you're like either late in college or once you have a degree, then you like court a girl and, you know, you put the Lord first, treat her almost like a sister, and then you get married and that's the one for life, right? And no sex before marriage. And so it's an incredibly naive way of going into it where like you don't have any experience. You haven't dated in high school. You don't know what healthy and unhealthy relationships look like. The only thing that you've seen is like relationships emulated and maybe like your parents and your friends' parents. And so the whole relationship dynamic for me, you know, I went from that to all of a sudden I'm in college and I'm like, how do relationships work? How do girls work? Are girls actually interested in sex and stuff? And so there was like, it was confusing trying to figure it all out, to say the least. But then when I found someone who I had been really frustrated because I hadn't found anyone that was interested in the same things that I was, or that had any kind of ambition. And then all of a sudden I found this girl that seemed to check all the boxes, and I was very excited. And it was a very quick emotional, they say that the flame that burns the hottest burns out the quickest.
Right.
And it was one of those types of situations, but it turned out to very quickly become emotionally abusive and controlling and manipulative. And when you're in a situation like that, then the intensity of it is amped up even more, because you go from like really intense fights to like, I must really love this person if we're like at each other's throat like that. And yeah, but at the same time, it was like, there were a lot of things that we had in common. So I dove into it, and there was also kind of the pressure from, not so much overtly from friends and family, but in my mind, it's like, hey, if this girl is going to be living with me outside of marriage, that's going to be a big red flag. And I've never told my family about any relationships that I've been in. And so like, I probably should be engaged to this girl.
Really?
Damn.
So it was the religious pressure for you.
Yeah. And at the time I was like, kind of, I was on the cusp of, if not already like pretty much done with my faith. Like by the time that we got married, I think I identified as an atheist, but that was very, very new for me. And a lot of the religious baggage was still there.
Okay.
Yeah, you were conditioned. That's interesting.
Yeah, like even once you deconvert, there's a lot of deconstruction that has to go on. Like even after you've, left your faith, there's a lot of programming and stuff that you've, had for decades. So
anytime you tell me about this and your lack of dating experience up until your marriage, just reminds me how grateful I am that I was a total slut growing up. I bounced from relationship to relationship, was always in a relationship, and I feel like I figured it out. Like, I'm not in a rush to get married or anything, but like I know what I want. I've known what I've wanted for like a long time. Well, I'm good. Like I'm fine.
The funny thing is, like after I left, well, even before I left my faith, like before I got into this marriage, I wasn't exactly a prude. Like I wasn't a virgin, and I had, I had some Tinder hookups and stuff like that.
Whoa.
But none of my relationships were long-term, because I didn't understand the dynamics of what a healthy relationship looked like. And I was kind of trying to figure it out through, hey, my college roommate would invite me to go clubbing with him, and, you'd find a cute girl and you'd dance and hit on them. And it was like, not, it's sort of like the, awkward person who shows up on the dance floor and is kind of sitting in the corner with the dog, trying to like, pet the dog and not look like they're awkward, and then going out and like awkwardly talking to a girl and getting shot down 10 times in a row. And then eventually figuring out like, hey, maybe this works, and trying things and realizing that some of the stuff that you try is like, cringy, like ultra cringy, where you're
I think
like,
everyone goes through that
dude,
phase.
like, why did you say and do that? And then there's some things like when you're in that mode, and there's a lot of embarrassment and kind of self-hatred. And so you're like, how do I want to be loved, I want to be wanted, I want someone to like, to have that connection with someone, but I don't know what it looks like, and I don't really want to like just be married to someone and never have sex before that. So you kind of go through a lot of steps where you're looking for things that work, and it's a cringe phase.
So what was it like after both you guys went through all that weird dating turmoil, and then you went through a marriage and went through that adventure and came out on the other side of it?
Well,
yeah.
Oh, you're talking to Ethan?
We're gonna give Ethan a turn.
Okay, go for it. You didn't direct the question. You gotta.
For both of you, but let's start with Ethan.
Well, now I forgot the question.
Okay, so like, what was it like? Like, what's it like coming out of that relationship with the person you were married to? Like, I know that you have mentioned in past podcasts that you felt guilty, like moving on and being with other people while you're like still technically married.
Very. So there was someone like I was interested in, and I felt immensely guilty talking to this person. And I'm just like, I don't know where she's at. And eventually, like, we had that first awkward conversation where like, she didn't want to tell me she was dating someone either, because she didn't want to make me feel bad. So we were both kind of like guiltily holding back. And then when she told me, I was just like, I was relieved, but I was happy because I wanted her to be happy and go find happiness with someone. So it was a huge burden off my chest. And then it was like, okay, cool. I can date now. This is no longer like that weird phase where you're like, if I do something, is it cheating? Is it not? Like, once we got past that and focused on like the friendship and just that, you know, we got a lot better off, and we're able to not bicker and fight because we were two people that did not belong together. You know, my buddy used to say that being alone was hard. And I said the only thing harder than being alone is being married and alone. And that's how I felt, because we were just two very different people.
Oof.
Like, we ended up sleeping in separate bedrooms, like didn't have much in common. I would be going off like doing things by myself. And it's like, wow, like, and I can't go meet somebody else. And I'm just days I'd be sitting there like, this is the rest of my life. Like, I'm going to be alone. Because we stopped having sex. Like, it was just two people, like a brother and sister, living with each other. So
Damn.
I was just like, this is my life now. This kind of sucks. And then when it had changed and when I started dating again, it was like, oh my God, that's not my life. Like, I can build a life now for myself. And it was, like I said, very difficult at first, but it got easier. And eventually, like, we could talk about it more and share funny stories and things like that.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a journey. I definitely, with the relationship I'm in now, I have learned a lot of the traumas I have from my past relationship, things I need to work on. You know, I saw a saying once that said, if you don't deal with your past traumas, your next relationship will. And that couldn't be more spot on, because there are certain triggers and things that happen where I'm like anxious for like, I shouldn't be anxious and I'm getting anxious over something, and it's like stupid. So
totally get that.
yeah, I have a lot of growing to do. That's
I'm
for sure.
glad that you're
And
like realizing that.
It didn't help that throughout this like marriage, I was at the lowest point in my life with the seizures and all that stuff. And I just like was just blah. And during that 5-year period, I didn't intellectually or emotionally develop. So I still say like, hey, I'm actually mentally a lot younger than I am, because it was just for years me just going to work, coming home, sitting in front of an iPad until it was time to go to bed, going to sleep, waking up. That was the same thing. Weekends, sat in front of an iPad watching TV all the time. It's been a journey, dude. That's for sure.
Like
that was a pretty long-winded answer.
No, that's just it's so crazy. Anytime you share stories from that part of your life, I feel like you've just 180'd like so hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before we get to Thomas, should we take our caller?
We have a caller. I think I do that every time.
We have,
I would love to.
Kenneth Leonard. Kenneth, you're on with Thomas, Westbrook, Hannah, and Ethan. How are you?
Is this the line we call to sign up for the divorce club?
Yes, this is the divorce club.
Okay.
Team divorce.
Yeah. Trial marriage club.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. What do you got for us?
I want in. You guys were talking about this, and it just resonated, especially from the stuff that Thomas was saying, because when I got married, I was like a devout evangelical conservative guy, and by the end of the 4.5 years that I was married, I was like an atheist who was rapidly becoming like a liberal humanist kind of guy. So it's wild where these can take you.
Yeah.
I that's also for me. I went into my marriage a Christian, and I came out an atheist, and she thought, that really, like, that affected our marriage too. Like, I didn't really care that she was a Christian, but she definitely cared that I was an atheist, because she was very convinced that I was going to go to hell and we wouldn't be able to get together in the afterlife. So that became that became a struggle.
Kenneth, is your
I mean, that would
was your partner religious still, or did you guys kind of deconvert together?
Oh no, it was just me that started to really question that whole Bible thing. She stayed very much a Christian, and at the end there, I mean, she was still regularly going to church, and when I was deconstructing, I actually would still go to church, but I'd be sitting there and kind of like leaning over every few minutes, going like, "Are you sure about this shit? Like, I don't know." I don't know if this really makes sense what that guy there saying. And she'd be like, "Would you just like keep it down? I'm trying to like have my time with Jesus." So it became a little bit contentious there toward the end.
Nothing will make you stop believing in God like getting married to a woman.
What?
She was great. Like, she was a fantastic person. It was weird too, because as I was like coming out of Christianity, everything that I had thought of about like what a marriage is supposed to be had been directly influenced by what I was taught by evangelical Christians. So when I was like, the Bible's not a thing for me anymore to use to guide my life, there became all these questions about like, well, what is a marriage supposed to be? What if I don't want a woman to be submissive toward me? What if that kind of creeps me out at this point?
Right.
It became
We're talking BDSM.
a thing where she wanted to stick to these roles. Yeah.
Yeah.
She wanted to stick to, did you say the roles?
Yeah, like the roles that, I mean, like that, like Ephesians 5, wives submit to your husbands, kind of mentality of being like, I need you to like be the godly man who like leads the house. And I was like, I don't know if that's, the best way to do this. I think there's been some good ideas about relationships and psychology since they wrote that stuff down. So, it became, I had all these pesky questions.
Yeah, it works for some people, but not everybody.
Is, I need a little feistiness in my life. I don't want a woman submitting to me.
Yeah, I'm a big brat. So
no, I need to be.
You're a brat, but
I need to be like overtly disrespected.
Oh,
you said you need to be overtly disrespected?
Yes, because I am crazy and will do dumb things, and I need someone in my life will be like, "Will you stop it? You're a maniac. Like, think before you act." Like, I need that presence in my life.
You need to be led.
See, Hannah and I are both maniacs.
Kind of, yeah.
So
sorry, what did you say, Thomas?
Yeah, we both have like younger sibling syndrome, so we're both maniacs, and we have to constantly tell her our relationship is to her. We have to keep telling each other to calm the fuck down. Oh yeah, I don't know. I definitely couldn't do the whole gender role thing in a relationship. I mean, I like to be taken care of, but it just wouldn't work. Like I could never be with a man who like expected that of me. So yeah.
Kenneth, when you left your relationship, I don't know how fresh this was, but when you left, were you able to still leave on good terms, or was there a lot of hostility?
Well, the thing was, I was not like a strategic divorce person, so
nobody is on their first try.
When my ex was like, when my ex was telling me all the stuff she wanted, I was like, well, if that's what you want, just take it, because I don't care about material things. And
now you're like, shit.
Like losing everything. So
damn, she got the Xbox.
But I blame myself for that,
See, we only argued over two things, a TV and a seasoning. And she ended up with the seasoning, and I got the TV. But then I felt bad because my room was smaller, and I had this big TV when I moved. And then she had this little TV sitting there, and I'm like, dude, I don't friggin' watch this. I don't need the TV. So I gave the TV back to her.
Did you get the spice?
I'm sorry. Did you say seasoning?
Seasoning. Yeah, like actual seasoning, because we couldn't get it anymore.
What was it?
It was a really
take
good
the house, but the paprika is mine.
It was a really good seasoning that you couldn't find anywhere. So it was like, dude,
you can keep the kids, but I get the damn seasoning.
But I get the garlic salt.
So
that's right.
What ended up happening though is she's moved to Florida. So I got the TV back and I got the seasoning. So it worked out.
So she's got COVID.
Like you won.
Well, I wouldn't say it was about winning, but I was pretty happy to get that.
You got the TV and the seasoning, and she was just stuck with her faith.
Hey.
Oh, that's.
We love her. Oh my goodness.
What seasoning is it? Okay, I forgot the name of it, but if I would go upstairs, but I can't go upstairs in the middle of the show.
All right, you'll have to follow up next week. I'm gonna hold you to it.
So Kenneth,
all of that, and you don't remember the name of the season. That's terrible.
Well,
all right.
Okay, so that's actually true too. I gave her the TV.
You gave Jessica the TV. Jessica won the divorce.
Well, and like I'm getting married again in like a couple weeks. So
oh yeah, congratulations.
Wow. Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, what was it like after the divorce? Were you able to put yourself back out there? But I mean, sounds like it.
So I did like one of the dumbest things after the divorce, which was I almost immediately got back together with an ex-girlfriend from before I'd been married. So the things you guys were talking about earlier about people getting divorced and then going back to their significant other, I kind of did that with somebody.
Okay.
And it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. But then I did get into the dating scene after that and was fine. It was a little bit weird at first, but like the thing about divorce that's so weird is like everybody acts like it's a sad thing, but like healthy, happy marriages don't end in divorce. Right. Like anytime a divorce happens, it's probably a good thing, you know?
Yes, it's definitely a good thing.
It opens up all these options and opportunities.
That's right. Yeah.
It's like one of my former coworkers, when I told him that I was engaged, he said,
divorced?
Do what? No, like when I first got engaged, he said, "Why on earth would you ruin a perfectly good relationship with marriage?"
Yeah, right.
And it's one of those things where, yeah, if you have a great relationship and a great healthy marriage, fantastic, that's awesome. But like you said, if it's unhealthy, then this notion that you should have to stay in it when everyone is miserable is just nonsense.
Right. I agree. Like if you're not in a happy, not just marriage, but not in a happy relationship, don't waste your life, man. Like that's 12 years of my life I won't get back. And yes, there is a lot of experience and a lot I learned, but when you're not happy and you can't make each other happy or can't, contribute to each other's happiness, don't keep fighting for something that's not working. Eventually it's time. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give people relationship advice. So I'm not going to go down that road.
That's what our show's about. We're not experts, but we're just speaking from our own experience. And I don't think you guys should give up the second things get hard, because relationships are hard. Agreed. But if it's healthy, give it a try. And then if it becomes unhealthy and miserable, then that's probably when you should leave.
Right.
Well, like in my case, I remember things going downhill and downhill and downhill and getting worse and worse and worse. And I remember at one point getting on my phone on the toilet in incognito mode, Google searching for signs that you're in an emotionally abusive relationship. And the reason why I did it in the bathroom is because that's the only place where I could have alone time. And so that's
when you
that
did
right
that
there.
Was the first thing that came up. Like,
that's kind of the first sign, is if you're hiding away in the bathroom,
are you on the toilet right now?
You're in an abusive relationship. You're probably in an abusive relationship. But I went through this checklist, and there were like 10 or 20 items, and it was like one after the other. I was like, oh my God, that's me. Chick, 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 ding, bingo. And it would have been one of those things where I probably would have still been like, hey, I can fix this. We can work on it. Like, we can make progress. But every single site that I was looking at and every single piece of advice from like dating and relationship experts were like, you can't fix another person. Like, if they want to change, they might change. But like, if you can't fix another person. And also, if you stay in an emotionally abusive relationship long term, then there's a lot of repercussions to you and your mental health. You'll start second guessing and questioning yourself. If you're being gaslit all the time, you might start, feeling like you're going insane. You might develop anxiety and depression. You'll, be hyper vigilant about every little thing because you feel like you're walking through a minefield every day and the mines are changing position every time you walk through that minefield. And it's like every one of those things has long-term mental health consequences
and physical health consequences if it lasts long enough.
And I mean, there were things that like at the time that I started dating her, I was doing mixed martial arts. And by the time that, we got married, I wasn't going more than maybe once every month or two. And that was like my form of exercise. Mm-hmm. So like my physical health was deteriorating too, which is directly tied to your mental health, because when you exercise, chemicals are released in the brain that are helping you to stay mentally healthy. So there's all these ramifications from it. So if I were to have stayed in that relationship long term, maybe little bits and pieces could have gotten a little bit better, but it would have been patchwork and there would have been a lot of damage to each other that would have happened. And so I'm fortunate that I saw the warning signs quickly and got divorced quickly, but I should have not followed through with the marriage. And I felt pressured into it. I felt, heavily pressured for a number of other reasons. And, I should have called it off, but, once you're married, it's like, yeah.
You hit so many check boxes for me right there with this conversation, Thomas. Like particularly when you talked about the minefield. And the hypervigilance is the worst. Although I do think I got some of that came from the bar industry, because when I was in the bar industry and I worked at a bar, there was always people, getting drunk, getting in fights. So you're constantly breaking up those altercations. So, when I'm in a bar, I'm hyper vigilant. Like I'm always like on edge, watching my back and the back of the people around me.
I saw.
But you should never
that way
not to witness when you're in a healthy relationship with someone who loves and respects you and respects your autonomy and your freedom and your personal space and your own, tells you that your feelings are valid, rather than being like, how dare you have those thoughts and feelings, and taking them and interpreting them in the worst, least charitable way. That's not a healthy relationship. So like, it's one thing when you're in a dangerous situation or you're walking home late at night alone or something, of course you're going to be hyper vigilant. That's normal. But in a, happy, healthy relationship, that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
Kenneth.
People also get there's like a sunk cost fallacy thing that happens where people stick around in the relationship just thinking they're like a gambler at a slot machine. They just keep feeding it 20s. And it's like, I can't keep losing forever, can I? Yes, you can. You absolutely can. I mean,
and they think
it's like, people feel invested in the relationship, like they can't walk away when it's harming them.
Because they feel like they've invested so much already.
Right.
Yep.
People feel that way in like relationships, but especially marriages. Yeah, definitely.
Kenneth, I feel like you should just be on this show right now.
I know. I'm like, I don't want to kick him off.
I could get in my car and be there in like 45 minutes, but
Damn. Anyways, Kenneth, what advice would you give?
Regarding divorce?
Yes.
Or like getting back in the dating game?
Both. If you
I would say that with regards to divorce, I'm gonna give some like actual serious advice. So my fiance and I, we've been going through like couples counseling for like a year and a half now with a licensed mental health professional. And they, I mean, they use a lot of stuff from a organization called the Gottman Institute, which there's this guy, John Gottman, who is a psychologist and a researcher who has a lab where he analyzes couples and how they communicate. And he has identified 4 distinct communication characteristics that lead to divorce. So like, I would recommend to anybody, if you're thinking about getting married, to look into what mental health professionals have to say about what makes a relationship a good one. Because people are going to fight and people are going to disagree about stuff.
Right.
But how you fight and how you disagree, how you relate to each other is very, very important. And a lot of stuff that we kind of normalize is not necessarily healthy. So, you know, there's a great body of research out there to look at where you can kind of come into relationships knowing what the biggest red flags are.
Right. Thank you,
That
Kenneth.
reminds me, I took a marriage and family.
And if you get divorced, go out there and date. Be happy. You know?
Divorce is okay.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed. It's there to
Yeah.
But
You deserve love.
I would say if you're in the middle of your divorce, the only advice I would give is only do that if like it's agreed upon by both parties, because who knows how much worse that could make your life if you jump into the dating pool while still, you know, married.
Yeah, set those
Expectations.
guidelines first.
Guidelines, yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Kenneth.
Thank you so much for
Okay.
calling in.
Love your show.
Oh,
Thank
I love you, Kenneth.
I guess.
All right. Bye.
All right. Take it easy.
You too.
Take care.
I don't think I've ever done a Simba cam before.
Hey, look, we have a Band-Aid too.
Oh, no, there is only one Band-Aid.
He's the Sim. He's the
Allison
boy.
says in the chat that someone proposed from a dating phone line after just 2 weeks of knowing each other.
My God. I mean, hey, if you know, you know, but I don't think this guy did. Not that Allison isn't amazing, but I'm just saying.
Or Allison wants to call in. I think that's fine.
We may or may not. We've got 2 other callers still.
Oh, okay.
Ooh,
Get to.
let's take him.
But before we take them, perhaps I think Thomas needed to answer your question. The one.
Oh yeah, like what was it like?
Throwing myself back out there.
Yeah, so I want to like just preface this or like recap. Ethan said that he felt very like had to tiptoe back into it and had some guilt and like apprehension about it. That was totally your experience, right?
Yeah, to some extent. So
I was joking because I thought you were like freedom.
Well, yeah, yes and no. Like on the one hand, you know, because our relationship didn't last that long, but it was very, very emotionally tumultuous. When I got out, I did feel very free. Like the second that I like left, like physically left, like the divorce had, you know, paperwork hadn't even been filed. Like we hadn't even started the process, but like I was no longer living with her. And I just remember like going for a run and just feeling like, oh my God, I am free.
Just broke out of Alcatraz.
I genuinely like I remember thinking that this must be what it feels like to be like a runaway slave. And
okay,
like
that was a little
that it's a weird comparison, I know, but there was this feeling of holy shit, am I out? Am I free? Am I going to be trapped again? Like, am I going to get roped back into this situation? Like, I can actually exercise. I can actually go places. Like, I'm not locked. Like, it was really, really bad. And I just remember that feeling of just this incredible sigh of relief. And like, I've got my life back. Like, I'm not locked in and trapped into this relationship. And
take it back. She didn't beat you and like make you get up and work on the sugar mill, babe.
No, but like the analogy of feeling like
Okay.
I just got out of being trapped and feeling
Right.
like completely captured in something for the rest of my life. And now I'm free from it.
That's okay. Yes.
I get
That's
that. I'm giving you a hard time.
okay. The being captured and like being able to like getting freed for the rest of your life. Yeah. When I first started realizing that, it was like, holy shit, man. Like I can live my life. I didn't live it necessarily in the healthiest way because I was just kind of living it like whatever. But it was so like, wow, I can do literally whatever I want. I don't have to report back to anyone, and I can start being me again. And it was such a freeing feeling.
Yeah, and there were things that like I wanted to do with my life. Like that's right after I got out of that relationship is when I really started my channel and went into it full time. Like I could not have done that with her.
And moved out of the country.
I also wanted to travel, and it was like, with her mental and physical health, like she would always say like, oh yeah, we're totally gonna, travel and do these things and, work on these tech startups and do all this stuff. And like nothing ever, like not only did she never take any steps, but every time I tried to take steps, I was sabotaged. And so the second that I was free from that, I was like, you know what, I'm going to pursue, a YouTube thing. I'm going to talk about my experience with, deconversion, because it was still really fresh. And I'm going to see if I can make it. And I'm also going to travel, and I'm going to live abroad, and I'm going to, see the world. And, I was working nonstop, but I felt the freedom to do it. Like I could actually work. But as far as throwing myself back out there into relationships, which was kind of the original question, like when I left, like the first several weeks out, it took me a long time where I was still heartbroken, like a lot more than a few weeks. But the first few weeks, it was basically like I couldn't think about anything else. Like I was just like trying to stay afloat. I was like sobbing constantly. I was just trying to like keep my mind occupied on something else. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to binge watch TV shows and to preoccupy my mind. And then
I'm sorry, Simba's licking my armpit.
And then after like several weeks of that, like I was like, I want to recover as quickly as possible. So like I talked to my dad's cousin is a psychiatrist. I talked with him. I, started seeing a therapist regularly, through work. I kept myself busy, was working on projects, started exercising regularly. And I started eventually throwing myself out there and dating again, but I wasn't looking for any relationship. Everyone that I talked to, I was like, look, I'm rebounding, I'm hurting, but like, I'm just looking for like some sort of physical connection. And and even then when I would like see someone and like start actually like having a regular, friend with benefits or something, like I would still almost use them as a therapist where I just anyone that would listen, friends, family, relationships, I'd, talk about my ex. And it was probably not fair to them, but it was my way of working through it.
You went through a big thing. It's hard
And
to not
the
talk
first,
about.
I think the first hookup, part of me felt bad, but at the same time, I was kind of angry at how much she had hurt me. But then I found out that like she had literally like right after I left, and she within the first few weeks, like when she realized she wasn't going to get me back, which she tried, then within about a month, she had found someone and was engaged again. So
he's trapped.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they got divorced too, like a little bit later. So she's on her third marriage and has a kid now.
Yo,
first
I wish her the best.
I had post marriage actually made me feel worse about myself. Like it contributed to how I already felt broken, and it was just like, this was my first experience.
Aww.
Not good. But after that, it improved drastically. And
after a few years, like, now I feel like it's, very much behind me.
Good. Look where you are now.
Yeah, and like we've been together for 2.5 years now. So like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we have someone calling in with a bit of a hot take. I kind of want to hear them out. So Victor, okay. I don't want to misrepresent you. You're on with Ethan, Hannah, and Thomas.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Hey.
You?
I'm doing good, thanks. Okay, right. So my hot take is I don't believe in divorce. Once you get married, I believe in separation. If it gets really like arguments and you guys are fighting and stuff, okay? But once, like, I don't know, I just think marriage is a big deal. It's different from dating. Sure, you can break up with someone that you're dating, but once you're married, like, work it out. You know what I mean?
Why?
What? Why?
Why?
Well, I mean, especially if you have kids, I guess. I'm assuming that there's kids involved.
Not with me.
It's like, you know.
Yeah. What if there is not?
Or
kids?
is there not? I guess our hypothetical here. Would we have kids or not kids in this hypothetical?
It doesn't matter either way. I'd say the question is still valid. Like, why? Because if you are miserable, you're going to make your kids miserable. Like, to give you an example, when my parents fought, it ended up coming out on us whether they wanted it to or not. And they stayed together for us, which was like not a good thing, because it made us worse off because they were fighting all the time. So if you're not happy with someone, I am adamant, like you got to separate. Don't ever stay together just because of your kids, because they are going to see, hear, and feel all the misery you go through.
I agree with that, but getting a divorce isn't always the solution to that, because you could just get in another relationship that's also bad, and then your kid is once again seeing the same thing happen with your new relationship, which happens a lot, where you'll get divorced, and then your new partner's abusive to your kids.
So you should,
if that happens.
I feel like you've gone from you should never get divorced to like sometimes you shouldn't, sometimes you should.
I think it just really freaking depends, because like, what if this person is hurting you financially, physically, and emotionally, and everyone around you, and separation's not,
or sexually abusing
and like separation isn't going to work because legally they're like, oh well, this is your, I'm gonna get a little too personal, but I think I should shut up before I get upset. Not like you have an upset. It's just like this is a very like close to home topic for me, because like I witnessed a marriage that would have definitely benefited from divorce. Do you think that there are some cases where divorce is necessary or like permittable?
I mean, my church allows annulments, so yes, I guess sometimes in rare circumstances, yes, if you get like your marriage annulled. That's not, I mean, I guess for all intents and purposes, that's like divorce. So I guess in rare circumstances, I just see people being frivolous about it nowadays. Like, oh, I'm not in love anymore, I'm going to get a divorce. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're in love or not. Like, it matters if the relationship is working.
What if you've been married to someone for 10 years, and then you find out that they've been cheating on you for 5, and that they are, a hardcore drug addict, and that they're bringing people around your kids that are, drug addicts and stuff too. Like, there's situations where it's like you want to be able to separate from them financially, physically, and prevent them
legally protect yourself.
Yeah, protect your kids and get custody and stuff like that. Like, I think there's a lot of very, very legitimate reasons.
I do want to jump in and say, though, I don't think people should be frivolous with marriage. I do agree with you there. Like, it's a big decision. Like don't jump into it, because you should find out these things before you marry someone. But there are circumstances where things are good and then they're really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Victor, if I could give you a hypothetical just to kind of see where you're at. Let's say somebody is physically abusing their partner and they have kids. Is it okay for her, let's say it's a man beating a woman. Is it okay for her to get divorced because she's being beaten?
That's a good example. I would say that's pretty extreme. So yes, I mean, yeah, it's
incredibly common.
If you've got like the cops involved, this dude's getting in trouble and he's still doing it, like, yeah. If you've tried everything else and he's still doing it, yeah, totally.
Well, I mean, I would say,
I don't think you should try anything. You should leave immediately if you're getting beaten.
Yeah, the second somebody places their hands on you, I mean, to me, the relationship should end there. Like, someone places their hands.
Nah, I don't agree with that. I believe in second chances.
I mean, if you look at the death rates, if you look at the death rates of women that are like caused by intimate partners, it's actually pretty astonishing. So I think if more people didn't give second chances, more women would be alive.
So for this hypothetical, you're saying that she would be dead if you gave him a second chance?
Statistically, it's very likely.
I mean, I guess if you just don't do anything about it. I mean, I really think beating your wife is horrible, and like you need to see several specialists about that. I don't think it should just be a slap on the wrist. I think, yeah, a woman could die if you just slap somebody on the wrist for something like that.
But it happens all the time.
Seriously, I feel like it's something that could be handled, could stop, right? Just because they beat their wife once doesn't mean they're always going to be a wife beater, I don't think.
Statistically, I disagree. But you're right. Like there are special cases. It's just like
I agree with y'all. There are some instances, like the drug example, like if he's bringing kids or people around your kids, like drug addicts around your kids and stuff, like, yeah, no, that's really bad. And they don't change and you already tried, like, but I agree, like the second chance is kind of dangerous for sure. Like, what if they get worse? But y'all have a point.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you. Like, I think that people get like rush into marriage and then they just kind of treat divorce like a breakup. Like that does bother me, but I think divorce also really comes in handy for situations and not just the extreme ones, and the ones where people are just better off like going their separate ways and finding love. People don't always get it right on the first try, but I think that kind of just if people aren't so pressured to get married in the first place, then people can take their time and really find the person that's meant for them. Well, I don't really believe in meant for them, but you know, someone that they're going to be a good match for.
Well, Victor,
totally.
Thank you for taking the time to call in.
Yeah, sounds good, guys.
All right.
Thanks so much for taking my call, y'all.
All right. You have a good day.
I appreciate it. This was a great conversation.
You too. Thanks.
Right.
I've never had someone get me like heated, except for the person that was calling in to scream the N-word at me.
I was worried about this one, and I vehemently disagree.
I do too, but you know, I hope he comes away from it with a little
physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. Like, get help. Don't put yourself in. Don't stay. Get help. Reach out to friends. Reach out to family. Don't let somebody place their hands on you. Don't let somebody emotionally abuse you, and don't let someone abuse you in any other way.
And it doesn't even have to be extreme. Like, I think that people are free to divorce if they want to. I mean, I do agree with the guy that like if you're just like, oh, I'm just not feeling it anymore, and you have kids and stuff, and you just like feel like I don't know, like see a therapist, maybe you're the problem. Like there are instances where I think people should work it out and could be great together, but I'm not in those marriages. That's not for me to decide. People do get married, like just running out of the gates, but
sometimes, you know, you're young and you're stupid and you're reckless, and you know, you dive headfirst into something and realize you've made a huge mistake. Like, should the rest of your life suffer because of that?
No.
And, you know, especially if there's no kids involved. Like in my case, you know, there were no kids involved. You know, I had a very clean separation. You know, we didn't own property together. You know, I didn't owe alimony. We didn't have kids, so there was no worry about custody or child support. And so in many regards, you know, my lawyer basically said this is one of the most simple, clear-cut divorce cases I've seen.
Yeah.
And, you know, but at the same time, like, that's usually not the case. Like, oftentimes, you know, if you're looking at divorce, you are looking at something serious where there's, you know, it's more than just, oh, hey, you know, I'm going to have to, you know, spend some money and go to court and get a, you know, piece of paper signed. Like, usually there is a lot more that goes into it, and you have to think about, you know, are we going to be severed? Are there going to be alimony payments? Am I going to have to worry about kids and how it's going to affect them, and child support and custody battles, and, you know, all of the emotions and stuff that inevitably comes from divorce, where, like, even if you were on good terms before, very often going through a divorce, you know, you end up in a battle with each other.
I don't want to assume, but our last caller did mention that, you know, his church offers annulment. So I'm going to assume that this was a religiously motivated feeling, that marriage is probably something that's sacred. I don't. I see it as like I could go the rest of my life and never get married. Like I would be fine. The only reason I want to get married is because, like, it makes things easier legally you know, money, property, kids,
Kids,
blah blah blah, and I want to have a party. Like, but I don't take marriage lightly either, because it's gonna be
purposes.
but it's gonna be an expensive wedding that I only want to do once, because my mom said you only get one. I will not pay for your second wedding. No, but like I will when I do get married. Like that I really hope that's gonna be it for me. But if I need to get divorced, whatever. But not whatever at the same time. Like, it's something I do take seriously. I just also think, like, if you want to get divorced, like, it's fine.
Well, and I think that there's one thing that, like, I want to push back against a little bit firmly, because this is something that when I got divorced that I think was very emotionally damaging. And that's that, like, I left that relationship because I was being abused. And when I spoke to my parents, who are very religious about it, when I spoke to, you know, all my family and friends, and I gave them the details and they had the inside scoop, unanimously, they were like, yes, we understand. Like, we completely agree. Like, you were going through, like, this insane trauma, and, like, we don't judge you for getting out.
However,
but then later, you know, my parents used my divorce almost as a, you know, when we were having the conversation about atheism and God and going to hell and stuff, they used it as a way of, like, well, you know, you're not perfect, you're sinful, you're divorced, type of thing. And it was one of the shittiest things that they could do. But at the same time, like, that idea was so heavy on me when I was going through this process, that I genuinely felt, even as an atheist, that, like, oh no, now that I'm divorced, I'm damaged goods and no one's going to want to be with me. And, you know, this is going to be awful because I'm going to be seen as someone who, you know, can't hold a relationship together, and has, you know, in the Bible, there's this idea of, like, well, once you get divorced, you can never be in a relationship again, because anyone who, you know,
really,
like, it's in the Sermon on the Mount. There's specifically about women.
Yeah, imagine.
But it says, you know, don't go through divorce unless for marital unfaithfulness. But then if you do get divorced, you know, if a woman gets divorced and anyone, you know, remarries that woman, then they're committing adultery.
Wow.
And it's basically this big blotch, like, oh, you're damaged goods. You better not, you're permanently married to this person, no matter how abusive or unfaithful or awful they are. You better not get remarried. And even my aunts and uncles who had been divorced and remarried, who were Christian, who their spouses were unfaithful, I remember there being within my family a certain amount of just like, well, we don't really talk about that. It's kind of a gray area, but it's not a good thing, and it's kind of sinful and stuff. And they were like the most wonderful people, and they were always faithful to their spouses. And it's like, that idea, I think, is so just toxic. It's such a horrible way to look at it. It's like, there's 1,000,001 reasons why relationships don't work out, and you can be the most wonderful, healthy, faithful, perfect partner and just be completely walked on. And when you stand up for yourself and you get a backbone and you walk out of that relationship, you're not damaged goods. You're not, you know, this you know, mess and this awful, horrible human being. You're someone who stuck up for themselves, and you know what you're worth. And then you can take that confidence and move forward and heal and grow and be a better partner in the future to someone who values you and treats you right. And so I just wanted to push back on that a little. I know that wasn't a point that the last caller raised, and it's not a response to him, but it's this idea that I had in the past that I think is very unhealthy.
You're not damaged goods. You're the best goods.
I'd like to read a super
now
chat
that I've been out for...
Oh, we're going to read a super chat.
Well, I just want to, on that last,
wants to finish.
On that last note, now that I've been out for over 5 years, I never have those thoughts anymore. It's something that it took time to work through, but it is something that can be worked through.
Secular Rarity says, if you didn't already know, Ethan, Hannah, and Thomas are awesome. You do now.
Secular Rarity, you already contribute so much to the show. You didn't need to do that, but thank you so much.
Secular Rarity is a rare gem.
Anyways, Thomas, Hannah, is there anything else you think we missed before we wrap up?
It's already
Wasn't there one last caller, or did we want to?
The last caller dropped.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to say my hair looks so good today. And thank you. Everyone looks great. I've never been divorced. If I do get divorced one day, oh, fucking well. You guys are both wonderful people deserving of love. And here's to the future, Ethan. Holy shit. Congratulations on something happening on Monday.
I know, right? I'll truly be free. And then I can start rebuilding certain aspects of my life. And I could not be more excited. Yeah. Because it's, even though it's like we're divorced already, it's not official. So once that paperwork's filed and that judge puts that stamp of approval on it,
you're single as a Pringle, man.
And congratulations to both you and your ex. You know, because both of you guys are able to move forward with life.
But you're not single as a Pringle. You are.
I know I am. Yeah, sorry. I am not single. I have been taken for a little while now.
You will be legally single.
I'll be legally single.
And that's it.
Now I want some Pringles.
I just ate some Pringles. Well, this was really fun. I feel like this is really, this is like, I got my first caller I felt like I had a debate with, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it. You looked flustered, Hannah, but you stayed calm.
I know. I'm normally not good at that, but I was like, I am live, so I cannot get upset.
Yeah, you had a complete poker face. You were just like, and I could see it in your eyes.
I can control myself, but inside
the raging fire.
I was sweating a little bit because it's something that really is important to me. My life would, I'm sorry if this hurts your feelings. My childhood would have been a lot better if my parents got divorced. I would not have a lot of the problems that I still deal with today. So there's that.
Great topic. Thomas, thank you. Hannah, it was nice seeing you. Everyone, like, subscribe. Oh, crap. I forgot to thank patrons. 1 second. Cindy Plaza, Kenneth, Leonard, Skye, JumpandShoot, Oz, Secular Rarity, Philip Leitch, Kaitlyn Beyond, Toast, Richard Gilliver, Sunset Sarge, The Blazing Wizard Pope, Ameet Mathew, Keonta and Fava Beans, Ray Sylvester, Kyle Brewer, and new patron Al the Atheist. Thank you so much for your patronage, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, mods. Thank you, screener. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, boyfriend. Bye.